I'll never forget the sound of the deadbolt sliding shut and my mother's voice echoing in my ears. "If you can't support your sister, you don't belong in this house." The porch light flickered over me as I stood outside, clutching my backpack. The night air bit through my thin jacket. My heart pounded with shock and disbelief. How could my parents lock me out just because I refused to give up my chance at a scholarship for my sister's dance competition? I pressed my hand to my cheek, still stinging from my father's words, "You're a burden. You always have been." Tears blurred my vision as I stared at the closed door, realizing I was truly alone. All the sacrifices I'd made and every time I stepped aside for my sister meant nothing to them. I was disposable. As I wandered into the darkness, I had no idea my absence would create the first crack in their perfect world. Without me there to cover for her, my sister's secret was about to explode, and the family that cast me out would soon face a downfall they never expected. My name is Maya, and I'm 17 years old. I've always felt like the other daughter in my family. My parents, especially my mom, have always made it clear that my older sister, Chloe, is the star. She's the dancer and the straight-A student, the one with trophies on her bedroom shelves. Every family photo, every holiday, and every conversation seemed to revolve around her achievements. I was the one behind the camera, holding her bags, quietly doing my homework at the kitchen table while everyone else cheered for Chloe's latest win. It's not that I didn't try. I worked hard in school, joined clubs, and even got a part-time job to contribute. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. If I brought home a good grade, my parents barely glanced at it before asking how Chloe's dance practice went. If I needed help, they were always driving her to rehearsals or competitions. Sometimes I wondered if they even noticed me at all. I know I'm not the only one who has felt invisible in their own family. Have you ever felt like you were living in someone else's shadow or that your needs didn't matter? If you have, you'll understand why when Chloe demanded I give up my scholarship interview for her, something inside me finally snapped. Growing up, it felt like my world revolved around Chloe. I remember being 6 years old, clutching a crayon drawing I made for my mom, only to have her brush past me, arms full of Chloe's dance costumes. "Not now, Maya, your sister has a recital," she would say, barely glancing at my picture. That was when I realized that in our house, Chloe's dreams always came first. As we got older, it only got worse. Every weekend was booked with Chloe's dance competitions, and every family dinner celebrated her latest win. I learned to keep my own achievements quiet. When I made the honor roll in middle school, my dad just nodded and asked if I could help Chloe with her homework. When I wanted to join the soccer team, my mom said, "We can't afford the fees. Chloe's dance classes are expensive enough." I started babysitting for neighbors just to buy my own school supplies. The resentment built slowly, like a splinter you can't quite remove. I tried to be understanding, telling myself Chloe was under a lot of pressure too. But it was hard not to feel invisible, especially when my parents said things like, "Chloe has real talent. We have to support her future." It felt like my future didn't matter at all. Then everything changed when I found out about the scholarship interview. It was for a summer program in science, a field I had secretly loved for years. If I got in, it would be my ticket out, a chance to finally do something for myself. I spent weeks preparing, staying up late to perfect my essays and practicing interview questions in the mirror. For once, I let myself hope. But even as I worked toward my dream, I noticed Chloe acting strangely. She was more secretive than usual, sneaking out late and whispering on the phone. I overheard her arguing with someone about keeping things quiet and not letting mom and dad find out. I tried to ignore it, but a part of me wondered what she was hiding. Looking back, I realized my parents' blind trust in Chloe was a ticking time bomb. They were so busy protecting her image that they didn't see the cracks forming beneath the surface. Soon their perfect golden child would be the reason everything fell apart. The night before my scholarship interview, I was at the kitchen table, reviewing my notes one last time, when Chloe stormed in. She didn't even say hello. "Maya, I need you to help me with my dance routine tomorrow. My competition is in 2 days, and I can't do it without you. You have to skip your interview." I stared at her, stunned. Chloe, I've been preparing for this interview for months. It's my only chance at that scholarship. I can't just... She cut me off, her voice rising. You're being selfish. You know how important this is for me. Mom and Dad will be furious if you don't help me. Before I could respond, our parents appeared in the doorway, drawn by the noise. My mom's face was already frowning. Maya, your sister needs you. Her future is at stake. You can reschedule your interview. My heart raced. I can't reschedule. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. Why does it always have to be about Chloe? That's when my dad's voice turned cold. Don't talk back. If you can't support your family, maybe you don't belong here. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The argument escalated, voices echoing off the walls. Finally, my mom grabbed my arm and marched me to the front door. If you're going to be ungrateful, you can spend the night elsewhere. The door slammed behind me and the lock clicked into place. I stood on the porch, numb with shock and betrayal. I never imagined my family would turn their backs on me for standing up for myself. But what none of them realized was that this act of cruelty would trigger a series of events that would destroy their perfect world and reveal secrets they never expected to come out. I stood on the porch for what felt like hours, hoping my parents would open the door, wishing this was just a cruel test. But the lights went out, and I understood they were serious. With nowhere else to go, I texted my best friend, Sam, who lived a few blocks away. She replied right away, her voice filled with concern when I showed up at her door, shivering and holding my backpack. Sam's family welcomed me in without hesitation, offering me a warm meal and a place to sleep. But as I lay awake on her couch, the harsh reality hit me. I was missing my scholarship interview. I emailed the program director explaining my family emergency, but I knew it was a long shot. The next morning, I watched the clock tick past my interview time, feeling my dreams slip away with each passing minute. Meanwhile, back at home, Chloe was in full competition mode. My parents posted photos of her on social media, praising her dedication and talent, not a single mention of me or the fact that I was gone. It was as if I had never existed. But things weren't as perfect as they seemed. At school, I started hearing whispers about Chloe. Some of her friends were talking about how she'd been skipping classes, hanging out with a new crowd, and acting strangely. One girl even mentioned seeing Chloe argue with a teacher after school, her face red and streaked with tears. The rumors grew louder, and I couldn't help but wonder if this was linked to the secret I had overheard her discussing. Sam tried to cheer me up, but I felt lost. I had always believed that if I just worked hard enough, my parents would finally see me. Now, I realized that no matter what I did, I would always come second to Chloe. The pain of that truth was almost worse than being locked out. My parents didn't call or text. Instead, they reinforced their favoritism, telling anyone who would listen how proud they were of Chloe and how difficult I had been lately. A neighbor told me my mom said I was going through a rebellious phase and needed to learn some respect. It hurt, but it also made me angry. Why was it always my fault? Why did Chloe get away with everything? As the day of Chloe's big dance competition arrived, the tension in our community grew. Teachers began asking questions about her absences. Some parents whispered about favoritism and wondered why I wasn't around anymore. Even Chloe seemed more anxious, snapping at friends and lashing out when things didn't go her way. I watched all of this from the sidelines, feeling both vindicated and heartbroken. Part of me wanted to go home and fix things, but another part knew I deserved better. I started thinking about what I wanted for my own life, separate from my family's expectations. Have you ever been forced to choose between your own dreams and your family's demands, or felt invisible no matter how hard you tried? Let me know in the comments, because sometimes the only way to find yourself is to walk away from those who refuse to see you. Little did I know, the cracks in my family's perfect image were about to split wide open. When they did, everything would change not just for me, but for all of us.
The day of Chloe's big dance competition arrived and the whole community buzzed about it. My parents were front and center, beaming with pride, posting photos and updates online as if nothing was wrong. I watched from Sam's living room, feeling a strange mix of sadness and anticipation. I knew something was coming. I could feel it in my bones. That afternoon, my phone started filling up with messages. At first, I thought maybe my parents had finally noticed my absence, but the texts were from classmates and even a few teachers. Did you hear what happened to Chloe? Are you okay? You need to see this. My heart raced as I scrolled through the messages, piecing together the story. During the competition, right in the middle of her solo, Chloe had been pulled off stage by two teachers and the event coordinator. The entire auditorium watched in stunned silence as she was led away, her face pale and eyes wide with panic. Whispers spread fast. Someone had reported her for cheating.
The news hit our small town like a bomb. My parents, who had always bragged about Chloe's integrity and talent, suddenly became the subject of gossip and scorn. People questioned how they could have been so blind and so obsessed with their daughter's success that they missed the warning signs. Teachers, who had once favored Chloe, now looked at her with disappointment and pity. That evening, my parents showed up at Sam's house, their faces drawn and desperate. For the first time in my life, I saw fear in their eyes, not for Chloe, but for themselves. They begged me to come home, to help them fix things, to stand by the family. But I couldn't hold back anymore. I stood in the doorway, my voice shaking but strong. You locked me out because I wouldn't give up my dream for Chloe. You called me selfish, a burden. But all this time, you never saw what was really happening. You never saw me. You never saw her for who she really was either. My mom started to cry, but I didn't stop. You taught me that my life didn't matter unless it served someone else. Well, I'm done living in Chloe's shadow. I'm done sacrificing myself for a family that only loves me when I'm useful. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with regret and realization. For the first time, my parents had to face the truth. Their golden child wasn't perfect, and their other daughter was stronger than they ever imagined. Will they ever truly see me for who I am? Will I ever be able to forgive them? I didn't know the answer then, but I knew I was finally free to find out. The days that followed felt surreal, as if I was watching someone else's life unravel from a distance. Chloe's scandal was all anyone could talk about. Her trophies disappeared quietly from the school display case, and her friends stopped calling. The dance studio that once treated her like royalty suspended her indefinitely. My parents, who had always walked with their heads held high, now avoided eye contact with neighbors and barely left the house. At first, I felt a strange sense of justice. For so long, I'd been invisible, my needs and dreams ignored in favor of Chloe's. Now the truth was out, and the world finally noticed the cracks in our perfect family. But that satisfaction quickly turned into something heavier. Grief for the family I'd always wanted but never had. My parents tried to reach out by sending apologetic texts and voicemails. My mom's messages were tearful and filled with regret. "We're so sorry, Maya. We didn't know. Please come home." My dad's were more awkward, but I could sense his shame. They even showed up at Sam's house again, asking to talk and promising things would be different. But I couldn't just forget the pain of being cast aside, of being told my life didn't matter. Every time I thought about going home, I remembered the cold night on the porch and the words that stung deeper than any slap. I needed time to heal and to figure out who I was without their approval. Chloe, once the center of our universe, barely spoke to anyone. I heard she'd tried to apologize to me through Sam, but
I wasn't ready to hear it. The family dynamic had shifted. Suddenly, I was the one who could decide if I wanted to return. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Could you forgive your family after everything, or are some betrayals just too deep to heal? Let me know in the comments. For me, the answer wasn't simple. I needed to find my own path, even if it meant walking it alone for a while. As for me, I focused on rebuilding my life. I found a part-time job at a local science center where I met mentors who encouraged me to keep pursuing my dreams. I reapplied for scholarships. Even though I missed out on the original program, I was accepted into another summer course that changed everything for me. For the first time, I felt seen and valued for who I was, not just for what I could do for others. My relationship with my parents remained complicated. They tried to make amends by inviting me to family dinners and offering support for my studies. I appreciated their efforts, but I was careful to set boundaries. I needed to protect the independence and self-worth I had fought hard to find. Then, just when I thought things had settled, I learned that my parents were being investigated by the school board for their role in covering up Chloe's actions. Some of the teachers had raised concerns long before the scandal broke, but my parents had pressured them to stay quiet. In a final twist, my parents had to publicly apologize, not only to the school, but also to me. It wasn't the ending I had imagined, but it was the closure I needed. Sometimes the hardest lessons lead to the greatest growth for everyone involved. In the end, being forced out of my own home was the hardest thing I had ever faced, but it was also the start of my freedom. For the first time, I had to rely on myself and figure out who I was without my family's constant judgment or expectations. It wasn't easy. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I had made a terrible mistake. But slowly, I started to heal. I learned that my worth isn't measured by how much I sacrifice for others or by whether I fit into someone else's idea of success. I realized that standing up for myself wasn't selfish, it was necessary. Setting boundaries with my family was hard, but it was the only way I could protect my own happiness and mental health. Over time, I forgave them, not because they deserved it, but because I deserved peace. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing what happened. It means letting go of the pain so it doesn't control you anymore. I still have a relationship with my family, but it's on my terms now. I'm proud of the person I've become, someone who isn't afraid to speak up, chase her dreams, and demand respect. If you've ever felt like the less favored child or struggled to be seen and heard in your own family, you're not alone. Your feelings are valid and your dreams matter. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself even when it meant risking everything? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you found your strength and peace. Thank you for watching and listening to my story. If you found it relatable or inspiring, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more real-life family drama and powerful stories every week. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever faced a situation like mine or had to stand up to your family? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might help someone else feel less alone. And if you thought this story was intense, just wait until you hear about the time a hidden family secret turned a birthday party into total chaos. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. See you in the next video.